Today we have another video. We are going to do it in the dark. It's gonna be scary, it's gonna be inspirational, it's gonna be horrible, it's gonna be amazing. So, take your popcorns and lay under your bed, and let's get into this. We're gonna react to 3 true cult horror stories. So without further ado, let's get into this. Please check down my social medias down below. I gotta say that though. Check out the Facebook and Instagram. I'm surrounded by darkness, and we're gonna react to horror stories. I hope you guys can see me, and this is actually cool, I hope. I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's go.
I hate parties.
I don't like
Always
this.
have
This is dark.
and always will.
I don't like this.
This last party I went to has cemented that fact. I was always the quiet kid in high school, and not much changed when I entered college. I kept to myself most of the time, only interacting with others during group projects. I would have been completely fine with being the quiet loner for all of college life too. However, my roommate couldn't help but stick her nose in where it didn't belong.
Oh, yeah.
Hey Willow, wanna go to a party?
I hate roommates.
My roommate
Never
asked
had one.
night, as I was reading a book on my bed. The nearby frat's throwing a party tonight. I looked at her with a deadpan gaze. Do you really need an answer to that
I don't like the
question?
music.
My roommate rolled her eyes. Yeah, I figured that
Why
was
did I think
coming.
this was a good
Still,
idea?
It wouldn't
It's
hurt
dark.
to give it a try.
I'm scared.
No thanks. I'm good. You have fun though. Uh-huh. She paused for a moment before speaking again. Did I mention that they have free food?
Let me pause here. Every single party that you go to, if they have free food, you gotta go. No matter what the excuse is, no matter how tired you are, no matter what. You gotta go if they have free food, man. You gotta eat some food. Free food is the best food. You can count me at the party, man. I be drinking too. But make sure that I be eating. Let's go.
We got into my roommate's car and arrived at the frat in under an hour.
Okay.
Hey, free food is free food, right?
Yeah,
A broke-ass
exactly.
college girl like me wasn't going to pass on an easy meal that
Yo,
wasn't
I
cut
like this
ramen
shit. I
like
hate
that.
dark.
The bouncer didn't even bother
Like
asking
shit.
our names when he saw that we were girls and let us in right away. The party was already underway inside.
Nice.
People, mostly girls missing a few crucial articles of clothing, were getting wasted on whatever
What's
the
wrong
hell
with
was
this guy?
in those red paper cups. My roommate went to get 2 full cups and
Man, I'm
handed one to
freaking
me.
scared. I hate the dark,
Thanks.
man.
I said, as I looked
Like,
at
this
its
is not a good
contents.
idea.
To my surprise, it wasn't the piss yellow beer I thought it'd be.
Hey!
Is this red
Let
wine?
me pause there. First of all, talk nice about beer. Second of all, don't drink it if you don't want it. Don't take everything. Why is Americans like this? They just take whatever and drink it. Like, you have to see what it is first. Don't just drink it. Don't drink beer because you want to be cool. Drink beer because you love it. Fucking philosophy. Let's go.
You're serving? Sure is, said my roommate.
Why is she high?
House Delta Psi Omega is classy like that. Immediately after saying that, she went to chug God knows how much of said wine through a hose while upside down. Where the hell the frat got their hands on a wooden wine keg, I still have no idea.
They stole it.
I took
Probably.
one sip of the wine and my face scrunched up in disgust. It was wine, all right, and I hated wine.
Really?
And all alcohol, for that matter. I ditched the cup of wine on a table when no one was looking, and went straight to the snacks table. I may not like frats all that much, but I gotta hand it to them. They knew how to choose their party snacks. Within the hour, I became the only sober person left in that frat house. A pink, drunken
Boring.
blush pervaded everyone else's faces. For a moment, I thought the party might not be so bad after all. At the very least, I'd get to see a
This is
bunch
a
of
horror
frat
story,
boys
man.
and sorority girls making fools
You're gonna
out
be
of themselves.
surprised.
But then came the guy in a robe. I almost didn't notice him at first in the chaos of the party. He descended from the stairs of the frat house, his long purple robe dragging behind him
What?
down the steps as he descended, and he was wearing what looked
Whoa.
like a ring of grapevine around his head like a crown. While everyone else was drinking from red paper cups, he had an honest-to-God goblet brimming with wine in his hand. The weird guy raised the goblet in the air. "To Greek life!" he shouted. "To Greek life!" echoed everyone else at the party, even those not part of the frat. "And to Dionysus!" the robed man continued. "And to Dionysus!"
Let me
My eye-
pause there. First of all, if you go to a party where a guy in a purple robe is coming down the stairs, with a gold thing in his hand, a gold cup, and he's yelling, "Hail the Greeks." You gotta go, man. I will grab some beer and I will be out the door. I'll have my own party at the parking lot. I don't give a damn. That shit is already creepy. Like, really freaking creepy. Anyway, let's see where it takes us, because I have no idea, man. This is really exciting for some weird reason. Let's go.
Eyebrow raised at the name. I recognized it from one of my ancient mythology courses. If I remembered correctly, Dionysus was supposed to be the Greek god of wine. A little odd, but I brushed it off. I guess the frat must have taken the whole Greek life thing pretty seriously.
I guess so.
Someone started playing music, and without any prompting, the people in the party started to dance. I kept to myself in a corner of the room while everyone else flailed their limbs around like in a drunken bliss. The dance went on for hours, or at least felt like hours to me. The disorganized dancing formed into a cohesive ring of people dancing next to each other, hand in hand, without a care in the world. The dance all surrounded one person, the guy in the purple
It's already too late, man.
who looked on approvingly. The more I looked on, the more uncomfortable I started to feel.
Dango.
I always knew frats were kind of like cults, but this was getting way too obvious.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave, but didn't want to risk
You gotta
pushing
go.
through the drunk dancers
Move it,
and
sweetheart.
breaking the ring
Move it,
they
cupcake.
formed.
Go.
Something
Go.
about the looks of crazed ecstasy in their eyes told me that they wouldn't take too
Now
kindly
they taking
to
ecstasy
being
too.
interrupted.
Of course.
I was literally saved by the bell when someone rang the doorbell. "Pizza delivery!" yelled the pizza guy from the other side of the door.
Let me pause here. Yo, being a pizza delivery guy, if anybody of you in the comments have ever been a pizza delivery guy, please let me know down below. But imagine being a pizza delivery guy to this freaking party right here, man. And this guy's opening the door in the purple robe and everything. I would look like, what the is your pizza, man? I will go immediately. I'll be freaked the hell out, man. That's some creepy stuff, man. Yikes.
Every head in the room turned towards the door.
Oh,
Stuporous joy
shish.
on their faces warped into an insane rage. A horde of college girls stormed to the door, opened it, and
Why is he
dragged the
smiling?
hapless delivery
Why is he
boy
smiling?
inside. In 100 other scenarios, this would have been a dream come true for any guy. Not this time, though. They pinned him onto the ground as he squirmed under them in a futile struggle. He yelled at them to let him go, but nobody was listening.
What the hell?
Everyone's eyes were fixed on the man in the purple robe. "Sparagmos!" he shouted. "Sparagmos! Sparagmos!
What's that mean?
Sparagmos!"
What happened to the
repeated
pizza
the
delivery
drunk
guy?
college students over and over again. I watched in horror as they tore the delivery boy apart. They tore him limb
What?
from limb, starting with his arms and legs, before the robed man ripped off his head whilst the partygoers held back his torso.
What?
The poor bastard screamed all the way, right up until his head was separated from his body. I escaped the party through a back
What
window
the
in all
hell?
the confusion and called the police. When they got there, the drunk partygoers were feasting on the dismembered body of the murdered delivery boy. The robed man sat above them all on the top of the stairs, tearing off and eating strips of flesh from the delivery head.
What?
Needless to say, I'm never going to another frat party again.
Let me pause here. That's not a true story, man. Impossible, bro. That's impossible, man. Why the hell are they targeting a pizza delivery guy? This guy's not even getting paid enough to get ripped apart. Man, I hope this story is not true. I really hope it's fiction, because this is just freaking horrible. Cannibal Greek cult? What? Man, some of these parties and some of these people in this world are effed up, man. I hope that's not the truth. I hope that's not a true story, man, because now I don't want to be a pizza. Why the pizza delivery guy, man? He didn't do shit. You just order pizza and he delivered it. He doesn't even get paid enough. Why would you pick on a little guy? Freaking cults. Let's go. Okay.
My twin brother and I became homeless at a young age. Our parents were abusive, so we ran away from home when we were 13.
That's sad.
They didn't even bother reporting us as missing. I guess they must have been glad to have us out of their hair. Trying
Really?
to live on the streets was hard, but it was still better than living with our parents. Besides,
Of course.
we always had each other. For a time, we
It's
thought
a
that
good
was
thing.
all we needed to survive. No matter what problem came our way, we thought the two of us could overcome it together. Whether it be starting a fire in a trash can to keep warm during the winter, or scavenging the dumpsters behind restaurants for leftovers, we did it all together. I know it sounds like a miserable existence,
Nice.
but despite all the hardships we faced,
It's survival,
we were
man.
able to find some semblance of happiness and content in each other's company. We were
It's
a
good.
family. That is, until the day we met the cult that would ruin both of our lives. Our first exposure
with
to
the
them
cult,
came
man?
from one of their recruiters. To this day, I remember how out of place those people looked strolling around the dirty, piss-stained alleyways where homeless people slept. They were all dressed in fine, well-fitted suits that were just asking for trouble in that part of town. Their wealthy appearance would have made them prime targets for muggers had they not been traveling in a sizable group. At the time, I found it strange that a bunch of people who were all clearly rich enough to afford loitering anywhere else would even choose to be in this part of the city. My
Yeah,
brother and
exactly.
I huddled close to each other under a
Street.
shared tattered blanket. We were trying to make ourselves as small and unnoticeable as possible, so the people would ignore us as they passed. The last time a non-homeless person noticed us in the alleyway, they beat the shit out of us for fun, and we didn't feel like going through all of that
Man,
again.
there's actually a
One
lot
them
of things
approached
about
us,
that.
and my brother immediately put himself between me and the suited man. Although we were twins, he often played the role of a protective brother to me, even at the cost of himself getting hurt. To our surprise, the
protect
suited
family.
man didn't act aggressive. He just stopped in front of us with a gentle smile on his clean-shaven face. "Are you kids
That's already
doing all right?"
creepy.
he asked,
No.
as if talking to an old friend. "We're doing fine, thanks," my brother said. "Just trying to get by." The suited man tilted his head to look at me. "Does she feel the same?" I hid behind my brother and averted my eyes. The man just let out a small laugh. "Shy one, isn't she?" he said,
What?
as calm as ever. "Look, can you tell us what it is you want from us?" my brother asked.
Yeah, exactly.
growing
What you
even
want?
more defensive. "We don't exactly have much to give, and it doesn't look like you need anything from us either." "Oh, we don't want anything from you," the man assured us. "In fact, we have something to offer you." "And what might that be?" my brother asked, though he sounded skeptical of the stranger's charity. "Everything you don't have now. Clean clothes, a
Really?
roof over your head, and some food to fill your bellies with." My stomach let out an involuntary growl that I hoped the man didn't hear. It had been weeks since we had a proper meal that didn't come out of the trash can. The mere mention of food reminded my body of its own desperation. "Yeah, forgive me for doubting you, but why on earth would you do that?" my brother asked. "What's in it for you? We're not selling our bodies to you if that's what you're getting at." "Oh, heavens, no." The suited man sounded genuinely surprised at the insinuation. "All we want is to spread the word of our religion. That's all. You just have to come with us to our church and listen
What
to
religion?
our sermons. We'll give you food to eat, new clothes to wear, and a comfortable bed to sleep on for as long as you're there. And of course, if you don't like it there, then you're free to leave at any time.
Let me pause here. That sounds too good to be true. So a guy's gonna give you everything, and you're just gonna leave to go. Now, when you were homeless, you were very desperate for everything, from food to clothes to a bed and sleeping in, and it's just horrible for these kids, man. I think it's actually a true thing that they get into gangs and everything as a homeless, and just trying to get by and trying to get some food and trying to get some survival, man. I think it's very, horrible that these cults are feeding on these homeless people, man. I think it's horrible because, of course, you're gonna join a cult if you're very desperate. Of course, man. Or you're brainwashed. I don't know. Let's go.
Sleep in a bed? I asked, speaking up for the first time since the suited man approached us. "Of course," the suited man said. "You'll be well taken care of in the house of our God." I looked at my
Who's your
brother
God?
with pleading eyes. The hopeful look on my face must have broken down his wall of doubt about the suited man's offer. Our situation couldn't get any worse anyways. And besides,
True.
it wasn't
But it
strange
can.
for a church to offer free charity to the homeless, right? The two of us followed the suited man, whose name we learned was Gabriel, to a large church
Really?
tucked in an obscure corner of the city. It didn't look all that different from a regular church, not that I've been to many churches in my life. The only weird thing about it was how the cross at the very top of the church seemed to have a large eye carved in the middle of it. A nice older lady who wore the same strange cross around her neck greeted us at the church entrance. She handed us some new clothes and led us to the church bathroom to change. The clothes they gave us were weird, to say the least. The pants were normal, but the top was a long ankle-length purple robe with the eye-bearing cross emblazoned over the heart. Literal beggars like us couldn't be choosers, though. So my brother and I both changed into them and took a seat in the church pew alongside dozens of other people dressed in the exact same purple robe.
That's
a man
creepy.
started distributing sandwiches and bottles of water to everyone seated.
Really?
My brother
So
and
they
I
preying
were
on
so
the
hungry
homeless.
that we gobbled up our sandwiches in seconds, not even bothering to register its taste. The man distributing the food chuckled. "You two look like you could use seconds," he said, before handing us both an extra sandwich. So far, everything was great. My brother and I were ecstatic at finally finding people who seemed to care about us. But then, the sermon started. A man behind the church podium began speaking about how mortal minds were unable to handle divine wisdom, and that it is our duty as human beings to strive to see the world the way that God does as much as possible. He explained that the church's name was the Temple of the Third Eye, and that they were dedicated to letting people see the world through God's eyes, through their teachings and rituals.
Come on, man.
The more he spoke, the more I felt like he wasn't talking about any God I'd ever heard of. That didn't matter, though. Even if I didn't believe them, they were the only ones to ever give me the time of day aside from my brother. The least I could do was listen to what they had to say. After the sermon was over, we were all escorted by the preacher to a building attached to the church, where hundreds of beds lay. He told us that for as long as we were part of the church and attended the sermons, we could sleep there and be fed by them 3 times a day. It all seemed too good to be true.
Yeah, true.
It was. My brother and I got into a fight for the first and only time in our lives later that night. He wanted us to leave. Called the church a dangerous cult that would only spell trouble down the line. He was right, but I didn't want to listen. I told him that even if he was right, I would rather stay there where it's safe and warm, instead of going back to live on the streets again.
Let me pause there. You can't really blame people for doing this and having this opinion of staying in a warm home and, you know, having a bed, having food, everything like that. You can't really blame people for that because it's all survival or it's nothing. You know what I mean? So I really do understand this girl right here, what she is saying. And she's just taking a position and she don't want to be on the street and she don't want to hustle anymore. I totally get that, man. But it's still... I'm expecting something really freaking creepy. Let's go.
My brother left the church before night fell. The members of the church didn't stop him. Instead, they comforted me and assured me that they would take care of me for as long as I stayed there. I felt like I was being welcomed to a new family, one that could care and provide for me.
You can't really blame her.
In an uncaring world. Years passed as I grew into an adult under the Temple of the Third Eye's care. I became more and more involved in the dark side, hiding underneath its charitable
What's with the
exterior.
music? Stop that.
Even when they started putting me to back-breaking labor to earn my keep in the church, I only saw it as me paying them back for everything they'd done for me as a hungry, homeless kid.
You killing people?
In that time, I've lied for them, stolen from them, and in the end, I killed for them. A journalist had been reported snooping around the church one time too many, and the higher-ups at the Temple of the Third Eye were getting worried. They decided that their best course of action would be to silence him. Permanently. My indoctrinated mind felt honored to be asked to defend the faith when I was chosen for the task by my seniors. I would only later
Let me pause it. This is when you have no hope and you have nothing. This is what these cults they're going after. They're going after people who has no change of mind or who has no state of mind and just, you know, are easily to be manipulated for. And they're going for these people with not no soul, but no family, no safe zone, no nothing, and they just don't know anything. They just know the people that take care of them, and this is how you end up in this bullshit. It's horrible, man. Let's go.
and their true reason
She
for
killed.
choosing me
Really?
when it was much too late. I was given the reporter's address and told to wait to kill him there. It was a
What?
crappy studio apartment in the rough part of town that even the police tended to ignore. Human life was cheap there.
Really?
So my seniors were hoping that the authorities would chalk his murder up to a burglary gone wrong, or a gang hit gone right. I broke into the apartment through the back window with a hammer and waited for him next to the front door. When I heard the doorknob rattle an hour later, I held my hammer up to prepare to strike. The reporter opened the door and stepped inside. Our eyes met for a split second, and surprise flooded his face, and he opened his mouth to speak, but I brought the hammer down on his head before he could say anything. I felt his skull shatter upon impact with a sickening crack. Blood spurted off the top of his head and trickled down his shocked face. His eyes rolled into the back of his skull before he crumpled to the floor, lifeless. My job was done, and my heart was pounding. I wanted to leave right away, but something about him was still bothering me. Unable to shake the uneasy feeling growing inside me,
You just killed him!
I closed the door to the apartment and took my
Least you
time
could do is
flipping
run.
his body over to examine his face. Upon closer inspection, I realized with a mix of horror and regret
No,
what it was that bothered me about him. I knew his face. He had the same exact face as mine underneath the stubbles of his beard. The man wasn't just a random journalist looking for a big story. He was my twin brother. The same one I'd abandoned all those years ago for the cult that took over my life. My seniors at the Temple of the Third Eye knew my brother would never hurt me if he recognized me, so they sent me to kill him knowing he wouldn't retaliate.
Wow.
They overestimated my loyalty, however.
You just killed your
I
brother.
immediately turned myself into the police for my brother's murder and cooperated with them to expose the Temple of the Third Eye. I hope I was able to help in bringing that cult down for good. Now, I'm serving my sentence in prison for killing my brother, and will be for a long time. I betrayed
You
the
just
only
killed your brother.
family
He's
I
been
ever
there for
had
you.
for a place to sleep and food to eat. Here in prison, that's exactly what I get. And it's more than
Yeah,
I
you deserve that.
I
Let
grew
me
up
pause
in
you, man. She killed her own brother. Her brother did everything for her, protected her, did everything. But of course, she didn't know and she was brainwashed. This is what's dangerous about brainwashing. You can manipulate very, very weak people. And weak-minded people are not bad people. They just people with no belief, no home zone, no safe zone, no nothing. And she just killed her brother, man. I did not expect that. I should have expected that, but I didn't expect that. Let's move on.
the Doomsday Cult. However, I didn't realize that's what it was until much later. Since I was born and raised there, I just assumed that all the messed up stuff I saw growing up was the way things were supposed to be. Whether it be the beatings we'd be subjected to for not doing our chores well enough, or the way our teachers would demonize the world outside our little community. I thought it was all normal because that's what my parents and elders told me. Kids tend to take things at face value like that.
Exactly.
We called ourselves the Last
That's what
Family
dangerous.
because that's what we thought we would become. Every Sunday, the entire town would gather at the church to listen to our leader, Father Christopher, preach about how we chosen few will be the ones to inherit the earth after God has destroyed every civilization on the planet. Well, I called the place a town, but in reality it was a little more than a survival compound in the middle of the Arizona desert. There, the cult could hide from the outside world and prepare for the end of the world they thought was coming. I never questioned them. They were my elders, after all. I thought that they probably knew more about how the world worked than I did. I kept that mind frame all the way up to the day that I left. It wasn't me who decided to leave, though. I was about 11 years old when this all happened. It started with a sermon at the church held by our leader, Father Christopher himself. The usual Last Family sermon was already a fire and brimstone speech meant to instill fear in its devout listeners, but this one was even more full of vitriol than usual. At first, Father Christopher shouted the scripture at us in the dramatic way we'd come to expect from him, but near the end of his impassioned speech, His voice grew calm and took on a grim tone that scared his flock more than the overt rage and zeal of his usual sermon. "My faithful children," he said in a low voice that caused a somber atmosphere to pervade every pew of the church. "It is with a heavy heart that I tell you all that the end is upon us. Not of the world.
What?
Though I
You gotta
know
kill
that
yourself.
comes
That's
soon
what
as
he's
well.
gonna say.
No.
That's what he's gonna
What I
say.
speak of is the end of us and our way of life. Of the last family and its faithful members, not at the hands of God, but of men." An uneasy silence fell upon the church. Nobody wanted to say anything, or rather, nobody could. We all knew Father Christopher was quick to punish anyone who interrupted him during a sermon, so we kept our mouths shut and our questions to ourselves. It felt like an eternity before Father Christopher finally broke the silence. "The unwitting servants of the devil may come to take us away from our home any day now. Their earthly
What?
leaders have deemed us to be a threat to their tyrannical authority over men's souls. They
And in the
cannot
meanwhile,
possibly
nobody cares.
understand that we are merely trying to protect the soul of humanity from the end of days. They shall be forced to die 1,000 deaths in the pit of fire, while we die
What
only
the-
once, and be welcomed by
What?
the Lord's embrace."
These guys are good at talking,
Father
I'm saying,
Christopher dismissed us early that day, but only the children. The adults had to stay behind for the rest of the sermon. Despite the foreboding tone of the sermon, I remember feeling glad to have more free time that time. Over-exaggeration wasn't new to Father Christopher anyways. He must have predicted the exact date of Doomsday that obviously didn't happen like 3 times before already. Given his track record, I thought the sermon was just another case of him making mountains out of molehills again, and brushed it off. I said goodbye to my older brother Jacob, who was old enough to be considered an adult by the last family standards, and went out to play with the other kids, who
Called
were
the
also
last
eager
family,
to make
really?
use of their newfound free time. Later that night, I was awoken from my sleep by someone shaking me. I opened my blurry eyes and saw my brother standing over me with a look of silent panic on his face. "Jacob?" I asked, still tired from all the playing I did that day. "What's wrong? Is Father Christopher calling us to him again? I didn't hear any announcement." "Don't worry about him, sis," Jacob said in a soft voice.
Oh, no.
"I'm gonna need you to do everything
killed
I
everybody.
say, okay? I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but you have to trust me right now. Can you do that?" Sure," I said, growing concerned. Is everything all right?" "Everything will be all right," Jacob assured me. "Now, keep your voice down and follow me. Also, try not to make any noise." Jacob held me by the hand and led me out of the communal sleeping area I shared with over a dozen other kids in the compound. I couldn't see very well in the pitch darkness, but Jacob didn't seem to have any
I don't
trouble
like this.
guiding me. I guess he must have allowed his eyes to adjust to the dark already. He opened the door and eased it closed behind us, as if he were handling dynamite, careful to not make any excess noise with the way he moved. No sooner had he closed the door, we saw the beams of multiple flashlights approaching us from the direction of the church. "Shit," Jacob cursed under his breath, before lowering his back to me. "Hurry, hop on my back." I was confused, but did as I was told, and kept quiet. I could feel his heart beating out of his chest as he carried me on his back through the compound, like a thief in the night. I'm sure my own heart must have been racing as well. Jacob only let me down once we reached the border of our compound, marked by a tall barbed wire fence. He pushed aside a tall bush on the fence, revealing a large
So
gap
he actually
in the
been
wire,
planning that.
wide enough to fit a person through. He squeezed himself through to the other side, before turning to look at me. "Follow me," Jacob said in a hushed whisper. "Hurry." At that, I hesitated. Up until that very moment, the compound had been my whole world, and everyone there had warned me
Just
about the outside
follow
world.
him, sweetie.
Just taking a step beyond that fence felt
Follow
like
him.
stepping into the lion's den.
Follow
I
him.
thought God might strike me down where I stood the moment I set foot on
Nobody's
the
gonna
other
strike you
side.
down.
"Please, sis," Jacob pleaded. I don't want to leave you here." It was the desperate look in my brother's eyes that finally got me to follow him. He led me to a truck parked just outside the compound. The high-ranking members, who could come and go as they pleased, often used it to do supply runs outside the compound. I don't know how Jacob got his hands on its keys, but at that point I didn't bother to ask. He drove us far away from the compound at full speed. I watched through the back window of the car as everything I've ever known grew smaller and smaller before disappearing in the distance. We eventually made it to what I would later learn was called a hotel. My brother rented us a room and told me to wait there, with the door
Really?
locked until he got back from the police station. I didn't waste any time playing around all the new things I'd never seen before in the
Yeah, of
hotel
course.
room. Among those things were the television. I pressed the biggest button on the TV and jumped back when the screen lit up.
That must
with
be
moving
crazy.
pictures. I would have been delighted at the new discovery if it wasn't for what these moving pictures showed me. The channel was tuned to the news, in which the reporter was covering a massacre, complete with live footage at a place I recognized. It was the compound I'd just left, my old home. They showed the communal sleeping area where I myself was asleep only a few hours before. The kids on the beds, people I knew and grew up with, lay lifeless in sheets, stained by their own blood. Their expressions were frozen in a silent, eternal scream. Blood
that's
poured
creepy.
from large slits on their throats. At the foot of their beds were the bodies of the adults, their parents, and guardians of the kids.
Sick
The
fucks.
adults all had knives
Sick
sticking out of their
fucks.
chests, with their cold, dead hands still gripping the handle. The reporter explained that the adult members of the last family had smothered and slit the throats of their children before taking their own lives with the very same knives. They had all decided that it was better to die with their children than be separated from them once the authorities came to inspect the compound. All except one. To this day, I can't thank my brother enough
Wow.
for bringing me away from that cult. I intend
That's
to
a hell
make
of
the
a
best
story,
out
man.
of this new life he's given me.
That's a hell of a story, I just have to say, man. Holy shit. That was... Wow. That was something extra, man. I can't believe that these guys and girls are actually out there, man. These cults are brainwashing our children. They're brainwashing the human beings on this earth actually believe in this shit. Like, it's unbelievable. I don't know what to say, man. The last one was very horrible, but the first one really got me. Like, I could imagine watching that. I really don't hope these stories are true, but if they are, y'all some sick fucks. Y'all some sick people. I don't condone this cult nature thing, man. I just don't. Be reasonable and think outside of the box. Don't listen to everything anybody says, man. Anyway, guys and girls, if you like this kind of creepy videos, please do hit the like button down below. Subscribe and hit that notification button to get updated on newest videos that come to this channel. I really hope that you can see something because I got a little light here, but I really hope you can see me right now. I just wanted to make it a little atmospheric in this video because it's scary and it is what it is. So yeah, anyway, guys and girls, I love you so much. Please comment down below what you think about this video. What was your most, do you have any scary stories you want to tell or something like that? Maybe we can make a video where we read them. That would be amazing. So yeah, anyway, guys and girls, I love you so much and thank you for watching. Peace.